I have a short lesson that I want to teach you or go over this morning with you. And the lesson is your vote, your voice, voting rights, and the expanding electorate. Now I want you to remember that word, electorate, because I'm going to be using it and I'm going to define it in this lesson, okay? Let's go.
Okay.
Now, the objective this morning is that students will demonstrate that they understand the concept of the fundamental right to vote, which is given in the U.S. Constitution. That rights given must be protected. So just because it's been given doesn't mean it's always easy to exercise that right. So it has to be protected, and that the electorate has been expanded throughout history by recalling 3 out of the 5 groups. We're going to talk about 5 groups.
Okay.
And 3 out of the 5 terms. This is coming from the New Jersey Learning Standard. One of the standards is that we understand that certain fundamental rights help improve our democracy. And one of them is the right to vote. The next standard has to do with responses to when fundamental rights are violated. Okay? You go. Before we get started, I'm going to start with an issue. Are we listening?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Franklin's class wanted to celebrate the end of the semester with a party. Some students wanted pizza, and some students wanted tacos, okay? But as they debated, their voices became very loud, but no one was being heard, okay? So what do you think they decided to do? Chapter 1.
No. They decide.
They vote. They decided to vote. That's right. Whoever said vote. So the solution was they voted. They said, let's vote on our menu. If we vote, each of us will be heard. The selection receiving the most votes is going to win, and it'll be fun, whatever we eat. So this slide is, why do we vote? Well, we vote to make important decisions together. Together is a really important word because we want to include as many people in the process as possible. We vote to give each of us a chance. We vote because it's fair to everyone. We vote to solve important issues. Now, the issue about the pizza and the tacos was important to the class, but it may not be important to, like, a lot of people in the United States. But all of us, we vote on important issues to change things. Sometimes a law is unfair, so we want to change it. We vote to choose who's going to represent us, like in Congress, and we vote to participate in our democracy. All right, so I have a very short portion of a video that I'd like to show you to explain a little bit more about it. Okay, so that was just a short portion of a really important video I wanted to show you. Now, before we review the video, there's a few definitions that I'm going to go over. And I want you to remember the basic concept. The first definition is a fundamental right. Fundamental rights are a set of rights that are recognized in the laws of a country to protect their citizens. Our fundamental rights come from the U.S. Constitution. One of them is the right to vote. Number 2, electorate. That's that word I told you to remember, right?
Yeah.
The electorate is a body of people who are entitled to vote. The next one, he mentioned it in the video. Number 3, suffrage. Suffrage is a word that means the right to vote. It's just another word to say the right to vote. Now the 4th word is a very long word, but it's an important word, and I want you to try to remember it if you could. It's disenfranchisement. I'll say it again. Disenfranchisement. Disenfranchisement is the state of being deprived of a right or privilege, especially the right to vote. I'll give you an example. Disenfranchisement means if somebody gives you something and they say you can't use it. Like if somebody gave you a bicycle. They said, here's a bike, but you can't ride it. It's not fair, right?
Yeah.
So in America, we try to do things that are fair. So that's an important word to remember. And then the last term, number 5, is poll tax. The poll tax is a tax levied on every adult without reference to income or resources. That meant that sometimes when people would go to the polls to cast their votes, somebody would be there and say, hey, you got to pay money. And that wasn't fair to poor people. So the poll tax is a form of disenfranchisement. I just pulled these slides because I wanted to review the video. In the late 1700s, only white male landowners could vote. No poor white men, no women, and no people of any By the 1820s, white men could vote, poor ones and rich ones, but no people of any other race and no women. In 1870, the 15th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified, and all men could vote, but no women. In 1920, the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified. Finally, okay. And then in 1964, the poll tax was eliminated. That means voting is free. You don't have to pay any money to vote. And then finally, in 1971, 18-year-olds got the right to vote. Now, I want to review one more time so you remember those groups. The historical expansion of the electorate. 1700s, white male landowners. 1820s, only white men. 1870, all men. 1920, women. Then in 1964, all people of every income level. And then finally in 1971, 18-year-olds as well. But there's a very important principle here. The right to vote is so important that it has to be protected. So at one time, even though black people had the right to vote, there were people who said, you can't vote. And that was very, very sad. It was exactly. So the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed. Here is a photograph of the president signing it into law. President Johnson protects the right to vote for millions of Americans. All right? So, whatever happened in Mr. Franklin's class? Well, pizza received 6 votes, tacos received 6 votes, and we have a tie, we'll have votes. So, everyone voted, everyone's voice was heard, and the party was spectacular. I want to review to see if we remember some of these terms. What is the body of people entitled to vote? Yes?
The people who are entitled to vote are
Electorate. Very good. Okay. What is another word for the right to vote?
Suffrage.
That's it. Okay. Let's see. What was the unfair tax that made it hard for poor people to vote? Yes?
Is that they didn't have money?
That's right. It's a word for something tax.
Oh wait.
Poll tax. Poll tax. Very good. Okay. What is it called when you have a right, but you're not allowed to exercise it? Yes. That's it. Very good. Okay. And the last one. What are the rights a country grants to protect its citizens? Fundamental rights. Very good. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. That concludes my lesson. And this is my email if you need to contact me with any questions. And I really appreciate you guys allowing me to come and do this lesson with you. In conclusion, I want you to think about all the people in the United States. And one thing we always want to do is be fair. And the more fair we are and the more equality we have, the better our democracy. Thank you.